Welcome to the Eastman Admissions webinar series. We're going to give it a minute just for people to make their way from the login page through the waiting room into the webinar. But as you're coming in, if you want to use the chat to introduce yourself, that would be great. We'd love to get some idea of who we're talking to. Maybe tell us your name, where you are tuning in from. And if you have a question about today's topic, and we're covering academic opportunities at Eastman, so questions pertaining to humanities courses that you can take at Eastman, coursework you can take through the College of Arts, Sciences, and Engineering, that's what AS&E stands for, or questions about the dual degree, we will be happy to tackle all of those. And of course, you can ask questions as you go, or as we go here and as they come up. But if by way of introduction, you have an interest in a particular area, you can just let us know that. So we'll use the chat for this introductory period. What will happen after that is I will disable the chat once we get through introductions, and we will actually use the Q&A to ask your questions. So I'm not going to clarify what I just said earlier because I realized that it didn't make any sense. Take this opportunity to introduce yourself to us with your name, where you're from, and just something about your interest in academics and what you're interested in pursuing. In addition to music, presumably. That's why you're here at an Eastman School of Music event. And then as we go, you can submit questions through the Q&A feature once we get started. So I think we've got most of our, at least our on-time arrivals checked in. So we will get started here. My name is Matthew Artizone. I'm the Associate Dean of Admissions and Enrollment at the Eastman School of Music. And I am joined tonight by one of our wonderful dual degree students, Lauren Case. Lauren, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Absolutely. My name is Lauren. I am currently a senior here at Eastman, and I'm studying vocal performance and neuroscience.
Excellent. And it's great to see people signing in from all across the country. That's wonderful. We do these at 8 p.m., hoping to catch the whole time frame all the way over to the West Coast. So glad everybody could make it. So I'll let the introductions continue for a few minutes, and then again, I'll be turning the chat off. We'll switch over to the Q&A for any of your actual questions as we go. But to get us started, I'm going to just do some general background information that everybody should know about the Eastman School of Music before we dive into some of the specifics of the academic opportunities. Eastman is located in Rochester, New York, in Western New York State. And as you see there on the map up on the left, we're a bit closer to Toronto than we are to New York City. And just around, can't go across really, but just around Lake Ontario, and you're about 3 hours from Toronto. Underneath the map, you see an aerial image of Rochester over the river campus of the University of Rochester, so called for the Genesee River that runs through campus and up to Ontario. And yes, it's important to note that the Genesee flows northward, counterintuitively, I suppose. What you see in the image is the downtown area there with the tall buildings. That is actually where the Eastman School of Music is located. Here's kind of a cool night shot of that downtown area with the Eastman facade over here on the left. And if you're standing across the street from the Eastman School, that's the main view of the school. What you can see there is the original building from 1921. So yes, we are in our centennial year right now. It's very exciting. But you can also see a newer looking addition that was added to the school in 2010 with a new recital hall, rehearsal space, and some additional faculty studios over there. Some quick facts about the school. We have an undergraduate program of about 500 students, another roughly 275, 280 graduate students at any time. About 25% of our student body is international. We do have a robust merit based and need-informed scholarship process. So all of the students admitted to Eastman are considered pretty much automatically for a merit scholarship, but we encourage all of our applicants to submit FAFSA and CSS profile for full consideration of all available funds. The majors that we offer at Eastman range from performance, which is by far the most populous major at the school, in classical performance, also in jazz, music education, composition, and theory. In addition to that, just within Eastman, we offer arts leadership courses. This is the sort of entrepreneurial approach to being a musician in the 21st century. Film scoring experiences. Now we have a master's degree in film composition, and so this brings with it some coursework and studio orchestra opportunities for our students. New music, Baroque music, lots of opportunities to cross disciplines within music and between jazz and classical, theory, music history, you name it. And then, of course, the opportunity to do academic minors, which we'll get into a little bit later. All of this takes place in the context of a very robust performance-centered atmosphere. So we keep hearing between 700 and 900 concerts a year. So I've just chosen to go with 800, give or take 100. This is all of the guest artists, major ensembles, faculty recitals, student recitals, and all of the sort of elective performances that just happen. A lot of these are student-driven projects that happen. This is just a place where there are countless performance opportunities for all of our students. Those are just some quick general Eastman facts. I'm going to pause there and first thank everybody for introducing yourselves. And hey, we got somebody from California, excellent. And I am now going to disable the chat so that we can focus on the Q&A function for any questions that you have. But thank you for taking the time to say hello. And now we're going to move on to our topic at hand. So what are the academic opportunities for a student at the Eastman School of Music? And where it all sort of begins is with your core requirements for the Bachelor of Music degree. So if you are a student at Eastman, you are pursuing a Bachelor of Music degree. That is the one degree that we offer with these different majors that I described on the earlier slide. And what this circular image is, or pie chart, I guess they call it, is meant to represent is the sort of proportions of time that you spend on different things. And so whatever else you do, you're going to have this sort of core of experiences. And as you can see, the dark blue, the performance aspect of what you do will take up at least half of what you do. The common wisdom is that in a professional music degree, you're going to do around 75% of your coursework in just music-based things. So that will include performance, but it will also include music coursework. So this is the yellow portion of your circle, and that's where you start to see it really with the blue taking up most of what you do. Music history, keyboard skills, theory, oral and written theory, electives in music. You have to do a senior recital. You have to do a certain amount of chamber music, depending on your instrument major. Opera workshop, if you're a singer. All of those things that go towards your professional music study. So a student just pursuing the Bachelor of Music degree will have that proportion of music courses in their degree. And then that orange slice is what we would call the non-music academics. So the minimum requirement to earn the Bachelor of Music degree is 24 credits, or what translates at now usually around 4 credits a pop for a course, maybe 6 or 7 courses over the 8 semesters that you're enrolled. You take a first-year writing course, regardless, whether you're a student at the college or a student at Eastman, that's a requirement university-wide. And beyond that, an Eastman student can do whatever they want, essentially, as long as it meets the academic threshold of being a humanities course at Eastman or an academic credit-bearing course at the College of Arts, Sciences, and Engineering. So My guess is that most of you are not on this webinar about academic opportunities because you're interested in doing the absolute minimum required of you to get your degree. So we're now quickly going to move on and say, well, what if around this circle you wanted to expand and do other things? And that's where we get into the other options that students have. You can take classes at the College of Art Sciences and Engineering. You can develop that into an academic minor, and you can go as far as to add a dual degree. So those are the sort of 4 levels that we're gonna delve into here as we go. So the first one is just what you can do through Eastman without leaving our downtown campus and without even going over to the river campus. We're designed this way so that you can meet all of your degree requirements on the Eastman campus. Some of our students do want to have that sort of more maybe conservatory model experience to their study. Now, Lauren is a vocal major. And so Lauren, why don't you tell us a bit about what you do within the humanities department at Eastman?
Yeah, absolutely. So, part of the vocal major curriculum is taking 2 semesters each of Italian, German, and French, and those will actually count as your humanities credits if you would like them to. So, you don't have to take another humanities outside of those until, I guess, your senior year to finish filling those out. But those are already built into your degree program, which is pretty neat.
Right. And as a dual degree student, how do those credits help you? Do they help you, or are they just extra courses that you have to take in addition to your did you mention your major, by the way?
Yes, neuroscience.
Neuroscience. Yeah. I
For me,
didn't
they
want to like
really
drop
don't.
that on everybody if you hadn't prepared them for that.
Right. For me, they really don't carry over to my neuroscience degree. There's not a spot that they would be able to fill up. Most of those credits are more focused on labs or more science-based academics. And I don't know if you want to go into the cluster program at all, but that's filled up by other things and not my language requirements. So.
Yeah, and that is something we'll definitely delve into a little bit more when we get to the dual degree um, aspect. So you can see within the humanities department at Eastman, our singers can fulfill all of their language requirements, but all of our students can fulfill their academic requirement by choosing courses from these different topics. And if you go to our website, just go to the Eastman website and search humanities, you can find these courses listed under these topic areas. So of course, under art history, there are many, many courses that may be offered they'll pick and choose which ones actually get offered in any given semester, but there's a fairly comprehensive list of the coursework you can take at Eastman on the website. And of course, a student could go beyond the minimum requirement, just taking some of these interesting courses through our own humanities department. It is worth noting that the humanities department at Eastman is a full department with full-time, PhD bearing faculty members whose main job in life is to teach humanities at Eastman. And so they design these courses with our students in mind. And oftentimes you'll see that there are subjects that tie in with a musical context for understanding the music that you're learning about in the context of history, in the context of literature, in the context of film studies, these sorts of things. And there's a whole new strand that's not even listed here because the subject area is just humanities, but it actually covers sort of collaborative, creative connections between different arts areas. And so that's another really interesting option for our students. So the next sort of level that you could embark upon would be to, let's say your intellectual curiosity is not satisfied through that nice, but not unlimited range of offerings just within the Eastman School. So as an Eastman student, somebody, again, who has just applied to Eastman, has been admitted to the Bachelor of Music program, has not been admitted to the college, you are still a University of Rochester student. And you can take, because Eastman is part of the University of Rochester, right? And you can take classes through the Art Sciences and Engineering catalog. So there's no application needed. You just go to the catalog each semester as you're registering for courses. You have to look at your schedule and see, when does choir meet, when does orchestra meet, whatever your major ensemble is, work around that. When's your theory class? And just find a class that's going to fit your schedule, that's interesting to you, and you just go ahead and register, right? Assuming all prereqs have been met and all of those things that any student, college student, has to think about when they register. You can do this in what I like to call the buffet style. Little of this, little of that. You want to try some history, try some Russian, try some audio engineering, I don't know, and just pick and choose, or you really want to focus in a particular topic area. And that's where it can pretty easily evolve into developing a minor. Again, you can earn a minor that will show up on your transcript as a minor in this subject without any additional application process in order to do that. And roughly, this number fluctuates a lot, but more than half of our students are at any given time taking maybe even just a class. You're doing anything from taking, a class in art sciences and engineering to developing a minor, right? In other words, everything short of actually being a dual degree student. And so the next slide just, whoops. I'm so sorry. I'm sitting here advancing slides on my my own view of the slideshow, and you can't see them. So now I'm behind. So this was the slide that listed the subject areas taught in the humanities department at Eastman. I'll leave that up for a quick second for you to absorb that. And this is what I was just talking about. So now we're up to speed. Okay, so from there, I was going to show you, this is maybe going to be a little bit small for your screens depending on your device, but this is easily searchable on the rochester.edu website. This is just a list of all of the subject areas in which you can pursue a minor or a major. And so now we're heading into the crossover between minors and majors. So if you are an Eastman only student and you want to see which minors are available to you, this is a great place to sort through and see that. But if you're also interested in pursuing a dual degree, this is also a place where you can go and see, well, does Rochester offer the subject area that I want to study in addition to music? So I'll leave that up for a second so everybody can check that out. But basically, it's not everything you could ever want to study, but it is a very lengthy list.
I might make a comment real quick. So within this list, you'll see things that are just like general, like biology. And underneath that, there are specific tracks you can also do a more focused study in, if that makes sense. So the biology major that you see there has about 6 or 7 different tracks that you can focus on. So technically I'm majoring in biology with the neuroscience track. But so that means there's even more options than you see right here.
Great. Yes, thank you. Exactly. So there are some questions coming in. A lot of them have to do with dual degree, and we are about to embark on the dual degree portion of the presentation. So I'll save those until we get through there. There is one about the humanities offerings at Eastman. Specifically, are we offering classes in sociology? So that's not a particular subject area in which we have a professor on staff who offers courses in that topic, but certainly something that you would be able to pursue through the college. So with that, we're going to dive into the realm of dual degree. So now we're talking about earning both the Bachelor of Music at Eastman. So you are a music major, right? You auditioned for Eastman to get in. You have been admitted to the Eastman School, but you have also applied to the College of Art Sciences and Engineering and been admitted in order to study something completely different over at the college. Right now, out of those 500 plus students that we have enrolled, we have about 86 dual degree students. So roughly 20% or so of the students at Eastman are enrolled in the dual degree program. So it's a thing that happens. And some of these students, and we'll talk about application process in a second, but some of these students came in, like Lauren, doing this from the beginning, having been admitted to both schools. But others came in starting off as Eastman students and started doing some of the things that I was talking about, taking a class, developing it into a minor, and then realizing, hey, actually, if I stay for a fifth year, I can finish this degree and add a whole other degree to my portfolio. So if that is the experience that you're after, there are different ways to approach it, but it's certainly an option that and we encourage applying at the beginning. It is two separate applications to do that. So this is where Eastman and it does start to, sort of reinforces this idea that we're a different institution entirely from the University of Rochester. We are not, but we are autonomous in our admissions and in our financial aid and in other ways, but we are part of the university. But that said, it's a separate application for Eastman than applying to the university. So whereas a lot of university-based music schools will have you apply through the undergraduate admissions office for the university, it doesn't work that way here. So you would apply through them for your college application on the Common App, the Coalition app. They have a number of different ways you can do that. But you need to go to the Eastman website and fill out the Eastman application form in order to apply for and be considered for Eastman. So you do these two separate applications, two different sets of recommendations. You send transcripts to each school separately. We even have different test score codes. If you're doing test scores, which now are optional, standardized test scores are optional on both campuses. We do both still require English language proficiency tests for our non-native English speakers. Those test scores or test codes are different for the TOEFL exam, for example. And then you receive separate decisions from each school. So students admitted to both campuses will get their financial aid from Eastman, will generally live on the Eastman campus. That's just the way it just works better with your schedule. You're going to wake up in the morning, go across the street to your theory class, probably at like 8:30 in the morning, first year, sorry, and then be there late at night for a rehearsal or something, and then you just go back right across the street to our student living center right across from the school. And then we, of course, since I pointed out, are on a separate campus, we do run a shuttle back and forth between the campuses. So I want to maybe pause there, and we've had some questions about the dual degree. So I'm gonna play moderator at this point. And Lauren, I might put you on the spot for a couple of these, but let's start with this first one. So let's see, this person is saying if they wanted to double major in both music performance and a regular academic major, i.e. medicine or computer science, I would have to go between the Rochester campus and Eastman to do both. So I think we're talking here about transportation between campuses. So you want to talk about how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So like we just mentioned a second ago, there's a shuttle bus that runs directly between the Eastman campus and the University of Rochester campus. It's about a 15-minute drive, depending on the time of day with traffic and such. But it runs on like a superset schedule. I don't know if I've personally ever had a moment where I wasn't able to get on the bus because it wasn't running reliably or something like that. They do a really good job of keeping it on the schedule that they say it'll be on, and it'll just take you back and forth. So that's the easiest way to get between the two campuses for sure, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it, so that's really nice as well.
Right, excellent. Yeah, and I will just add that that a lot of energy has gone into, as the number of dual degree students has grown, which it has. So we used to be about 10% of the student body was doing it, and now it's around 20, it's doubled essentially. A lot more attention has been paid to the shuttle schedule and making sure that it's, there's some coordination even between class. I mean, it doesn't always work out, but class start times and end times. Classes at Eastman tend to start on the half hour. At the college, they tend to start on the hour. So you have that built-in travel time when a class ends to get over to the other campus. This is an interesting question about sort of the reverse of what we've been talking about. If you're admitted to the college at the University of Rochester, but not to Eastman, can you still take classes at Eastman? The short answer is kind of. You would take your lessons at Eastman. So we have a lot of college students who come over to take private lessons. They take these mostly with our doctoral teaching assistant students who are, essentially one step away from becoming the next generation of college and conservatory teachers of their instruments. But the college also, because it's on a separate campus, has developed quite a robust music department. So classes that you might want to take in theory and history. They even have a popular music institute and ensembles over there. There's an orchestra, jazz ensembles. I think there's even a wind ensemble. You can participate through the college music department and those things. For singers, the Eastman Rochester Chorus is one example of a combined ensemble that really does have both Eastman students, River Campus students, and I say River Campus now because it's not just the college, but it might be somebody from the School of Nursing or the School of Education that wants to sing in the chorus, and even some community members. And that, so that's the big chorus that will do, the big works, choral works and works with orchestra, that sort of thing. So let's see, now there's a question about if a student is pursuing a dual degree, but discovers they have a particular passion for one or the other of the degree paths, how easy is it to drop one and prioritize effort to the other? Yeah, so this happens, right? Because our students come in and they're, mostly starting off when they're 18 years old, and believe it or not, they, don't have everything figured out yet as far as what they want to do with their lives. So we do occasionally see that a student wants to drop one or the other. I mean, statistically, we most often see, because the students that we admit to Eastman have been so focused on music, maybe in many cases in addition to another academic area, that it's not the music part that they wind up dropping. That happens very rarely. And so, yeah, it's certainly possible to drop the college degree. Some might say it's easier than adding it. It's just a matter of talking to your advisor and making that decision, getting the signatures. And some of those students realize that, maybe it's not the degree that I need. What I really just wanted to be able to do was take those classes. And so I still have access to do that. I can still take those classes. I just don't have to take as many of them. And I don't have to have all of the other requirements of the full requirements for the Bachelor of Arts degree or Bachelor of Science degree, whatever it is that you're following. But I can still do it. So hopefully that helps with that. That does bring up, as I talk about like requirements for the academic degrees, if you want to call it that. Lauren, you mentioned earlier the clusters at Rochester, and it really is important to just spend a little time on that and understanding that Rochester doesn't have like a strict list of distribution requirements that every student has to sort of check off. They do it differently. It's much more flexible. You want to tell us a bit about how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So they consider like academics, each academic major to fall into one of three categories. And I don't know what they are off the top of my head. I know one is like social science, natural science, and then there's one more. But basically, your degree will fall into one of those three categories, and you are required to take I think at least three courses in each of the other two categories that your major isn't a part of. Um, For those who are planning on doing a natural science, so biology, chemistry, things where you're going to have a lot of those lab type courses, the clusters are actually covered by your Eastman coursework. So your music theory classes will count for one of them, and your music history classes will count for the other. Um, Although I do think if you're majoring in something that is not one of the natural science majors, you'll have to fill the natural science cluster at the University of Rochester because those types of courses aren't offered at Eastman and aren't typically covered by your coursework. This is really just their way of doing like general education requirements that you might see at other schools. And it's designed to help students at the College of Arts, Science, and Engineering build in minors if they would like to, because you're already taking a select number of courses that are focused around the same idea and things like that. It's kind of a confusing concept at first, but it makes sense.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm muting because the dog keeps barking in the background. So, okay, great. There are lots of good questions. This is excellent. So bear with me as I sort through them here. So the next one is about pursuing a dual degree. Nope, sorry, we just answered that one. I'm going to clear that out. Is there any way I can incorporate conducting in my studies as someone who was interested in vocal performance? Oh, yes, I love easy ones. Absolutely. So we offer conducting at the graduate level as a major, but we've had many students who have developed a strong interest in conducting as undergraduate students. And because we have both the graduate conducting program and the music education program, there's coursework starting with beginning conducting, which all of the music education students have to take, but other students can take as an elective, and then intermediate conducting, and then advanced conducting, all offered as coursework, where, you know, in order to take advanced conducting, you do need the permission of the instructor. But yes is the short answer. So there are classes you can take, and then just being in an environment where conducting is being taught. You know, you would go to rehearsals and you would just take advantage of the fact that you could watch the conducting faculty work with the conducting students, hear how they are critiqued, you know, show up for the rehearsal with score in hand and take your notes, and definitely a place where you can immerse yourself in conducting. We've had a number of students, you know, majoring in whatever performance on their instrument, who have then gone on to do their master's degree in conducting, and they've been able to get the experience needed and make the video, the all-important audition video, through, if you remember the previous slide, and those however many hundreds of performances are happening every year, a lot of those again are student-driven projects, and you know, a group of students is going to get together to do something and need somebody to conduct them, and you could be that person. So that's generally how that works.
There's also specifically a student-run group of American Choral Directors Association, and it's typically it's kind of run by a lot of the graduate choral conductors, but a lot of undergrads take part in it, and you get to do conducting experience just kind of as an extracurricular activity for fun. So that's another option there.
Great. So here's a question about auditioning for Eastman after being admitted into the college at Rochester, which we haven't talked about so much. I was talking about an Eastman student being able to add on the courses, which frankly is a much more straightforward pathway of, you know, find the course, fit it into your schedule, register, show up, do well. You know, if you have good academic standing and you've taken a certain number of college courses and you want to add the degree, it's, you know, it's really like getting your advisor's signature at that point. Whereas if you're admitted into the college and you want to get a degree from Eastman, you still do have to go through the whole audition process and apply to Eastman, really as if you're a transfer student, but you're not transferring, you're adding it on from the college. And the trick there is to, to do it early enough that you can still fit within the 5-year plan, assuming that's your plan. Meaning, you figure this out in your first year and you're auditioning in the spring of your first year to add on the Eastman degree in your second year, because you're probably at that point likely to be admitted as a first-year student at Eastman, even though you're in your second year at the college. That's all dependent on, the strength of the audition and where the faculty hear you, class standing wise. And then there's, the theory placement test that determines how many semesters of theory you would then have to take. Obviously, you would be ahead of the game with academic requirements. So you wouldn't have to worry about that so much. That is a more rare scenario, to be very honest about it. I think primarily just because, the students that if you're thinking seriously about going to a professional degree in music, and you don't get into East, let's say you applied to both and you didn't get into Eastman, but you got into the college, what I see a lot of those students do is just decide to enroll at another school that did admit them into a professional music degree. But there are exceptions to that. So that is how that would work. This is a question about advising, essentially. Like, does the student have to check with their professor before adding a second major or adding a minor if studying as an Eastman student? And really the answer here is no. Now, I'll hasten to add that your professor is also technically your advisor, and it is good for them to know what you're doing. Ultimately, though, they are really focused on advising you within their major, and they don't generally, and this is not what we hired them to do. We hired them to teach you to sing, or teach you to play the violin, and they're really good at advising you within that major. So we do have an academic affairs office that will advise you. Our Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Dr. John Hain, is the advisor for all of our dual degree students. But he, of course, will talk to any student who knocks on his door or sends him an email. And that's a great source for talking through, like, what would this look like? And, when should I do it? And, what are the requirements and all of that? So this is a very specific question about the shuttle ride. Did you mention, Lauren, how long it is?
Yeah, it's typically about 15 minutes. They have them scheduled out for 20 just in case of traffic, but you can almost always count on it to get there in 15 unless it's super snowy. Then it'll probably take all 20.
Right. Yes, we get snow. We generally tend to just push it out of the way and keep on going. So our academic and musical pursuits are generally unthwarted by the weather. And I will say, tonight I'm indoors, but I could be outdoors. It's like 50 degrees or something. Last night it was 60 degrees, and I was doing one of these webinars on my back porch in November in Rochester. So there you go. This is a question about music therapy, which we actually don't offer at Eastman or the UofR. But again, I have to hasten to say, there is a very strong brain and cognitive science program at the college. And there is a strong relationship between that department and the music theory department at Eastman, including with coursework in music cognition. I've animated Lauren's nodding
I
along here,
am
and I
really
want you to chip in here.
Oh, I haven't gotten to take any, but I'm really hoping to take music in the mind next semester, which is all about, it's basically, it can count as one of your upper elective courses for Eastman, but it's also taught through the Brain and Cognitive Sciences Department at the University of Rochester. And it's just all about the connection between the brain and music and everything I'm doing. So I really hope to take that class.
Yeah, so to be clear, this would not result in the certification required to practice music therapy in a hospital or a nursing home. But basically a lot of coursework related to it. So if you're interested in that professional credential, we couldn't recommend the program for you, but that is there for the student interested in music and psychology and how the brain works and all of that. Let's see. Let's talk about time conflicts between labs for a science major and Eastman courses. This is a good question. So generally speaking, and I'm going to let Lauren speak specifically about this, but generally speaking, if your major is in the liberal arts, political science, humanities, English, whatever, you have a lot of options for taking those courses and meeting your requirements for the degree. So you can schedule around the things in your Eastman curriculum that are really immovable. Like I mentioned, orchestra meets when it meets. There's not another section of orchestra that you can sign up for. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1:30 to 3:30 in your first 2 years at least, that's when that's blocked out on your schedule, and you got to work around it. In the sciences, it can be trickier, but there are ways around it sometimes. Lauren, what's your experience been there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest conflict that I have found my first year is that you've got your theory and oral skills requirements, which tend to be at the same time as a lot of the beginning biology courses in particular. But what you can do is you can take other courses that would fill things up. So I got rid of, like, I got through all of my calculus requirements, I got through my statistics requirements, I got through some writing requirements, chemistry, and just kind of worked what I could in when I could. Um, and you'll be able to eventually get them all in. It just may not be on the most typical timeline. Um, but you've also got multiple advisors who are there who can help you like pinpoint things. So like Dean Arnzone said, Dean Hain is one of your advisors as a dual degree student, but you also have an advisor on the River campus who is specifically working with dual degree students, and you also have your professor for your instrument who is working with you. So you have a lot of people who can help you kind of piece the puzzle together. It's really just about fitting things in where you can, um, and you'll be able to get them all done. It just may not be the most straightforward timeline on which classes go when.
Great. So yeah, so that was great because that touched on an important element of advising that I wanted to make sure we cover. So thank you for that, Lauren. I mean, it's just really, you're robustly advised, and this is sometimes where the problem solving happens, is at the advisor level, right? Still the student's responsibility to go and say, hey, I'm trying to do this, but this is conflicting, but how do I make this work? And they're the ones who are going to sort of pull the strings and
And
help
once you
work
get
things out.
even farther into like a specific major, I think you can declare at like the end of your sophomore year. Some departments even have another advisor for you to go to. So I just found out that there's another advisor, and she basically helped me schedule out my entire rest of my degree plan for neuroscience. So just depending on the department, you might get even more people there to help.
Right. Okay, so here's a question about doing music composition at Eastman and nursing at U of R at the same time. Wow, that's a new one. I'm that's the first time I've not immediately known what the answer to the to the question is. We have not had this before, and I think it's just safe to say for now that that does not exist as a dual program. We just have not had students enrolled in both of those programs at the same time. So this is from an anonymous attendee, so I can't follow up with an email, but if you want to, we're going to end on a slide with contact information. If you want to send an email reminding me of this question, I can dig into it a little bit more for you, but that is the short answer that I can give you now, although it sounds really interesting. And let's see, so other questions about the whole, if I'm at the college but not in a degree program at Eastman, what can I do through Eastman? So participating in Eastman ensembles, in Eastman opera, performances, those sorts of things, those would not be available to a non-Eastman students. These are ensembles and experiences that are degree requirements for Eastman students, and so those spots really are reserved for those students. And then similarly with the theory courses and the history courses, but again, all of that coursework is also offered through the college music department. So theory, music history, and they'll even expand out into popular music, and I think maybe even like a songwriting class. I mean, it's a lot more generalized through the music department. So lots of opportunities. I definitely encourage anyone who's thinking about, because I know this is still a decision that applicants have to make, is, do I want to do music as a professional degree, or do I just want to be able to pursue it while majoring in something else in an academic environment? I strongly urge you to explore what the college music department has to offer. And I think partly because of the shadow of Eastman, it's often overlooked, but it's very robust what they offer there, and students are able to really be music majors in an academic sense while earning a Bachelor of Arts degree or a Bachelor of Sciences degree. There's a question about dorms. I actually fell behind on my slides again. So I'm going to quickly pull up a picture of the dorms outside the Eastman building. This is the Eastman Student Living Center. Again, dual degree students do live in the Student Living Center at Eastman. Again, this is because of the proximity to the school, the way that the schedule, especially in the first couple of years, and I think maybe this is a point we haven't really hit on much, at least yet, is that in your first couple of years, a dual degree student schedule doesn't look all that different from an Eastman, Eastman only, if you will, student schedule, in that you're taking the theory, the keyboard skills. You can take your first year writing course at Eastman, and it counts, as your writing requirement for the other degree. You've got your ensemble rehearsals, and you're meeting all of the people that you're doing the music degree with. And so it's just easier to walk across the street, begin and end your day at Eastman. The big difference between a dual degree student in their first year and a regular Eastman student is they may be taking 2 academic classes at once, non-music academic classes, versus the one that the Eastman student is taking. Lauren, was that your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. My first semester, I took, freshman writing seminar, and then I also took Italian as my humanities for my voice degree, and I actually didn't take anything else at the River campus. And then my second semester, I started to add in things like chemistry and I think a calculus course as well. So it really, at first, it does look very similar, and most of your morning classes are absolutely at Eastman for the first 2.5 years. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there you go. This is a great question about just time to completion requirements. So is an Eastman student required to finish their music degree within the 4 years, even if they're using that 5th year to finish their other degree? Really the answer is no, you're not required to. I think in practice, a lot of students do get through their music coursework within the first 4 years. You then still now have the opportunity to continue to study with your teacher for the 5th year. But what a lot of students find is just that they want the momentum of getting through the music coursework. The theory coursework is sequential. You want to take theory 4 right after you took theory 3, because it kind of everything, builds on what you just did. And theory, of course, is one of those use it or lose it sort of skills. You want to take the keyboard classes in sequence, that kind of thing, and just get through it. And then, one of the big questions I think becomes, when will I do my senior recital? And that's where a dual degree student actually maybe has a little more flexibility to stretch out and think about doing it at the end, in their 8th semester, or maybe in their 9th semester, when they're really just taking mostly academic classes to finish up their college degree, but they're still able to take lessons. So Lauren, I don't know what your perspective is on that, but I know that's sort of like the general wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm currently planning to do my recital in the spring. I just scheduled it yesterday. But I also know multiple people who have decided they wanted an extra semester to focus on it since they had the extra year anyways, and they've chosen to maybe do it like in the fall of their fifth year, especially if they're planning on going to do auditions in the spring of that fifth year for like a master's program. So then it's not, coinciding with all of that, which is a pretty nice thing to have.
Absolutely. Great. And then the last question that I see here is about, as a piano major, what ensembles do you participate in? It's a fair question. So our pianist will generally sing in the one of the choruses or the choir. Not for all 8 semesters. I think it's maybe a 4 semester requirement, but it's, all of our students have a large ensemble requirement. And so like me, I'm a classical guitarist, so there is no guitar orchestra, just like there's no piano orchestra. So I did sing in chorus in college as my large ensemble experience. So it's just that opportunity to work with a conductor, not be playing, just by yourself and having to follow and make music with others. So that's generally how that requirement is fulfilled. All right. So I think we've kind of made it to the end, believe it or not. I believe we've covered most of the topics that we wanted to. We'll pause here for a moment in case there are any final questions that people have, but I'm leaving up our contact information. This is definitely not your last opportunity to ask questions on this or any other topic related to admissions or the programs of study at Eastman. I'm going to take a second here to drop a couple of links in the chat. We have other events coming up. And so I just want to make sure everybody is aware. For example, there's a college fair tomorrow night, I believe, that we will be at, but so will a whole host of other schools. So it's a great opportunity to learn about programs at lots of different schools. And those will include lots of, college and university-based music programs, in addition to some conservatories. But if you're really interested in this dual degree option, that'll be a great opportunity to explore a bunch of schools. I also want to call people's attention to a really nice blog that the now famous Lauren Case wrote for us on her experience as a dual degree student. And then just a couple weeks ago, I think it was, the Campus Times, the university's student-run newspaper, did an article, little piece on another dual degree student who's a piano major at Eastman. And I forget now off the top of my head what her other major is, but that's an online article that you can check out for just another perspective on the dual degree experience. And I think I have to maybe fix the chat in order for you to see these, it looks like. So let me turn that back on. All right. Can someone chat at me yes or no? You can see these links.
I think you might have sent it just to panelists and not to panelists and attendees.
Aha. Okay. So I'm going to drop them all in there again. All right. We're almost like 2 years into this thing. I'm still learning how to use Zoom. So that is the Campus Times article, it looks like.
Change it from, see the little blue button where it says panelists, change it to panelists and attendees. Because right now I'm the only one who sees it, I believe. I can also try and send them if you'd like.
Oh, I see. Okay, so sorry, I am not figuring this out. Lauren, are you able to, okay. And you have those links? You saw them come through? All right, Lauren is on it, folks. So here you see in action, the difference between a student who just studied music and a dual degree student. She can figure out how to share links in the chat, and I can't. So there you go. So also up here is the contact information for the admissions office. We are, of course, back in action in the school. We are also open for visits, by the way, I should mention, and you can register through the website for a tour. We're also still doing virtual information sessions and tours. Nice work. Thank you, Lauren. But we are, I think what a lot of people forget is that we go to work every day and sit in the office and almost kind of hope that someone will call an email and ask us questions. And so don't ever hesitate to do that. That is why we are there. So happy that you showed up tonight and asked your questions, but again, it doesn't have to end here. So keep in touch. Thank you for coming. Check out those links. Hopefully we'll see you at another virtual event soon, if not in beautiful Rochester, New York. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.